With one thing that I've noticed as well through researching in the last few days is a lot of these marketplaces as well. It's very easy to upload NFTs to them. So a lot of them have OpenSea publicly came out and said that last year they had issues with counterfeit NFTs. So with these counterfeit NFTs, I understand that if you buy and sell NFTs regularly, it's pretty easy to decipher the difference between them just by looking at the user. But obviously, there's some people are going to buy these counterfeit NFTs. How do you think this will affect these marketplaces in the future with regulation? And then how do they actually compensate these people, or is there really no way to compensate someone who buys a fake NFT?
Um, well, there's a way to compensate people that buy fake NFTs by just refunding their money, right? But then it comes out of the pocket from the project, from OpenSea, for example. If there's stuff like that happening on OpenSea, well, then yeah, OpenSea just needs to open up their pocket and give that money back as a service, right? Just to keep their name up, which does happen sometimes. Like, I know there's been quite some stuff going on with mutant apes and bored apes as well, where people were selling fake ones and buying fake ones. Um, at the same time, it's your own responsibility. You got to just look out for stuff like that. So if you have something like that happening, well, it's just dumb, really. So what that would do if you would buy a fake one, um, or if you've done something wrong, something that you weren't allowed to do, then they just blacklist that NFT. Means you can't list it nowhere, you can't do anything with it. It takes away all the perks from it. It takes away the utility and whatever. So it's useless, right? So then people would sell it. Usually people sell it for cheap, and if somebody else buys it, well, that person didn't really make a mistake. Then it's not their fault. Then they would activate certain perks again and whatever. But that's when selling and buying real NFTs from the real collection, right? Because there's NFTs that are actually from the real collection. If you just buy an NFT that's not in that collection, in the real collection, well, then yeah, it's just your own mistake, really, and that's just being dumb, right? There's not a whole lot of regulations there of people finding who made the mistakes or whatnot, but that's also the power of it. Like, it's a decentralized system, it's all secretive and whatever. That's one of the powers of the blockchain, right? So you kind of want to keep that.
Yeah, understood. Obviously, do you know BlockFi? Have you heard of BlockFi before?
Sounds familiar.
So BlockFi is it was one of the first exchanges that came out where you could buy Bitcoin and then you could effectively stake it, and you would get like 10, 11, 12% back on your money. On Tuesday, the SEC fined them roughly around $100 million, which is quite large for a small little crypto company. And
Hmm.
the reason why the SEC basically sued them was they believed that they were misleading people and they weren't registered as a money manager or a broker of any sort. Do you think that so the SEC followed up with that with a statement basically saying that they are going for the crypto space, and that any companies or businesses working in the crypto space to go within the bounds of normal federal laws that anybody outside of crypto would have to follow. Do you think this could affect NFTs, or is this going to mainly affect the exchanges like Coinbase, and these actual companies rather than these marketplaces and games?
Yeah, that's difficult. I think the SEC or any regulational company, every country, they will try to regulate stuff because they're just missing out on a whole lot of money, right? I have all my money stored on my crypto, so I don't pay any interest. I would have here in the Netherlands, and I think a lot of countries have that these days. You kind of have like negative interest if you just have it on your savings account, right? So you pay money for it. I think they're stepping away from it again next year, or from a certain point. I don't know exactly the date from it. They're gonna not do negative interest anymore because what's unfair, because sometimes people might be saving up for something and it might take a couple of years before they've got enough money to buy a car, a house, or invest in a business or whatever. So they need a certain number, right? That's why they've got money in their bank and they're building up till they have enough. In the meantime, you're paying interest over that money that's sitting in your bank now, which is your hard-earned money, and you gotta give it back to the bank, right? Which doesn't make sense. So I think they're stepping away from that rule again to allow people to save up more so they can invest into something later on. But because of that, as an example, I have all my money stored on blockchain, right? In crypto, I don't have to pay any interest in it. It depends on how far you want to take things, but you can have an income as well, and you don't pay any taxes on it because it's not regulated, right? To eventually be able to pay all that money out to yourself legally, well, there's got to be somewhere along the line where it's legit, right? You got to kind of whitewash all that money if you want to legitimately use that. This is not financial advice, by the way, but you can find out certain tricks here and there easily to avoid all that and whitewash your crypto earned money so you don't pay taxes on it, right? That's stuff that you can do to make all that happen. Well, I think that they want to regulate that stuff, so they're not going to start regulating. What they try regulating from both ends, right? They go to bigger exchanges. The more rules and things they have on exchanges, the easier it's going to be to regulate all that. And they come from beneath, and they try to just make up rules for the investors itself. And if they close that gap a little bit, eventually you know, they're probably never going to be able to make that watertight. But the more rules that come up from both ends, the tighter it'll be, and the less what in government's eyes is fraud, right? In our eyes, it's just clever. But the less scammy stuff that's going to be done with that money. So I think that they're going to continue forever to try and come up with more regulations and more rules. But I think if crypto continues to develop well enough, then we might be able to get around all that.